So, you're thinking about getting your first e-bike. Are they fun? Is it worth it? Are there considerations you should probably know about? Yes. Let's talk about it. So the guys at EUYBike reached out to me and asked me if I'd be interested in checking out their new NXB fat tire e-bike. And I've never been much of a cyclist, but I enjoy biking as much as the next guy, but I've certainly never ridden an e-bike before. So this is all new ground for me. I would call this, even though it's all-terrain, because it's got these 20-inch by 4-inch fat tires, and you can ride this on sand, you can ride it on snow, you can ride it on gravel, but it is not really a mountain bike. So I would call this a foldable, all-terrain commuter bike. That's really kind of, I think, the best description for this, because you do sit up pretty high, the handlebars are pretty high, and in many cases a lot of states have laws in place that prevent you from riding an e-bike on a mountain bike trail. So you want to check the laws and the rules that apply to the areas near you for where you would like to use this bike. But I will say they are absolutely a lot of fun. Now this NXB fat tire bike from EUI has some cool features that come with it standard. First of all, front and back disc brakes. The front forks have suspension. It doesn't have a rear suspension, but it does have a seat post suspension. And here I have actually upgraded the seat that it came with. It did not come with a C9 or a Cloud 9 bicycle seat. This has a little bit upgraded cushion, although I have to say I've only had this for a couple of days, and the seat that it came with was actually pretty good. And this is not a dramatic upgrade, but it's something that you might consider for relatively inexpensive. I think these seats run around $35 or so. But the NXB bike does come with front and back fenders, which is nice to keep the mud off of you if you happen to be going through some muddy trails. And then back here you can see it's got a cargo rack on the back. It's got a 7-speed Shimano gear system and derailleur, so that's all very nice. And it doesn't come with like a phone holder here. I actually bought this, and I'll put links to these things in the description below if you're interested in checking those out. But I've actually had this out a few times on some rough road, and it actually does a very nice job of holding my phone. I use an app called Map My Ride, which is got an Under Armour symbol on the Android icon for some reason. I guess Under Armour owns the app, but it is really cool, and I might show you some screenshots here of the app as we get into this. But it's really nice to have this up. And one of the reasons I use that app is because the controller that the bike comes with only shows your speed when the actual eDrive motor is engaged. All right, so as soon as the motor comes in to assist, the speedometer now reflects my speed. But now that I'm not pedaling and I'm not using throttle, you can see it's showing 0 miles an hour. Something like the Map My Drive app will continually kind of give you your speed as you go, if that's something that you need to see. It'll also more accurately map your distance, because if you're not recording your speed, it's also not recording your distance during those times when it's showing the speed is 0. So something to be aware of, but as I said, easily remedied with something like the Map My Drive app. And there's actually dozens of other app options as well that would do the same thing. Now this bike has a 48-volt system in it, and the battery is located right in here. And that is about a 12.8 amp hour battery, I believe, which I think calculates out to, I don't know, maybe 615 or 616 watt hours. So pretty good capacity. It's got a 750 watt motor, and it is what's considered a class 2 bike, but more about that in a little bit. Now EUI says that this bike is rated to handle up to a 300-pound rider and somebody who is 5'1" up to about 6'6" in height. I will say, because of the the height of the handlebars and the height of the seat, 5'1" would really be pushing it. I think this is probably more comfortable for somebody at least 5'5", maybe a little bit taller. It really kind of depends on your comfort level of not being able to put both your feet on the ground. But I mean, if you're into cycling, you're probably used to that anyway. Now with the included AC charger that plugs in right here, this thing takes 5 to 6 hours to charge from basically empty all the way to full. And from a range standpoint, if you're willing to use the pedal assist mode 1, which means you're going to be pedaling and going at a relatively modest low speed of somewhere around 5 or 6 miles an hour, rather than relying exclusively on the electric motor, you can get up to about 60 miles of range out of this. Now if you're going to rely specifically on the electric assist pretty much exclusively, they say that you can get 28 to 30 miles out of that. Now That's if you've got no headwind, you're going on flat ground, and you weigh about 150 pounds. For somebody like me who weighs about 200 pounds, I'm thinking that range is probably going to be somewhere around 20 miles on the electric assist only, and I think that's probably a lot more realistic. Now, as I mentioned, these all-terrain tires that it comes with, these fat tires, are 20 by 4 inches, and they're actually supposedly run flat tires, which is cool. I haven't tested that, obviously, but that's how they're rated. It does have a front LED light, which is cool. It's got actually 4 individual LEDs, and it's very bright, and you can adjust it up and down to kind of illuminate the area that's most important to you. And you would actually turn that on and off by long pressing the plus button up here on the control panel. And I believe the rated weight of the bike is 66 pounds. So even though you can fold it up and fit it in relatively, small areas, it's still a little bit bulky. And to just be aware of that, it might be easier to get a bike rack if lifting a bulky 66 pounds might be a problem for you. Anyway, let's get this thing out on the trail and find out how much fun it is to ride and what that experience might be like. There's, I think we call that Coney Island, right over there. I'm in mode 2 doing 13 miles an hour. That's about the top speed in mode 2. Let's take this up to mode 3. Now I don't have to pedal with any more effort. And I'm at 15.5 miles per hour. In fact, it's even in 7th gear, it feels a little unnecessary to pedal this fast. But I can maintain 15 miles an hour plus in mode 3 with almost no effort at all. That's kind of cool. Let's try mode 4. We switch to throttle mode. I don't feel like pedaling that fast. So now I'm just using the throttle, and I'm topping out at 17, almost 18 miles an hour with slight downward pitch there. Let's try mode 5. We'll creep up just a little bit faster. And we got 19.5 miles an hour. So not quite 20. It's like an old train trestle. That's cool. I've never been out here. This is really pretty. And I think now that I've had this bike for about a month, this is kind of what I'm finding. This thing will get you out into areas you haven't been before if you're not already an avid cyclist, which I was not. And I still don't consider myself to be an avid cyclist, but I am really enjoying this, and it's getting me outside. And even though it does make it easier, well, that's pretty. And even though it does make it easier, it's not like I'm not getting exercise. Because like I said, I'm still pedaling right now, still burning calories. But if you're getting up there in age, you still like biking, or would like to get back into biking maybe, and you're worried about how taxing it can be, the e-bike really kind of helps alleviate that concern. Because especially if I hit any hills or anything like that, I could downshift, work my way up the hills like you would normally do. But that electric motor assist really does take a lot of the real tough challenges out if you have a lot of hills to deal with. Well, I have to say, it's very cool. There are some things you should be aware of. First of all, pretty much all the states now in the US are implementing e-bike laws, and there are some federal e-bike laws as well. Now notice I've got this label here that says class 2, and then under that it says 750 watts and 20 miles an hour. Now by Ohio law, and many other states actually have implemented the same law as well, manufacturers are now supposed to label their e-bikes. So mine didn't come with one because it's a relatively new law. Now I did ask the guys at EUYBike.com about that, and they said that they are just now starting to add labels to the bikes due to the changes in state laws. So what does class 2 mean? This is actually something that's very important to understand. There are basically 3 classes, and I'll kind of list these right over here. So class 1 is a pedal bike with no throttle on the handlebar. So the motor only provides assistance when you are pedaling, and when you're not pedaling, no assistance. Maximum speed is 20 miles an hour. Maximum motor power is 750 watts. That is class 1. Now this is a class 2 bike, which means that you can pedal it if you want. But you can also use the throttle if you want. You can use a combination of the two, or you can use just the throttle if you want, which is actually very convenient at times when you get tired of pedaling. So I really like this class 2, but it is still capped at 20 miles an hour, and it is 750 watts. So let's talk about class 3. Class 3 gives you up to about 28 miles an hour, and it does not necessarily have a throttle. Now that part is a little bit of a gray area. There are some class 3 bikes that will provide throttle assistance up to 20 miles an hour, and then pedal only assistance from 20 to 28. So that's a little bit of a gray area if you have a class 3 bike with a handlebar throttle, but probably not something that somebody's going to hassle you about. But I definitely would recommend getting these labels if you don't already have one on your bike, or if you get an e-bike soon and it doesn't have one. These are available on Amazon. I'll put a link to the one that I bought in the description below if you need to buy those. They're really cheap. It's like $4 or something like that. So this bike is, I don't remember the price off the top of my head. I'll put the link to this all in the description below so you can go check it out. But it's right around $1,000. And as you may or may not know, e-bikes start in that vicinity and they go way up from there. So this is actually a pretty good price. And as you saw, it's foldable. So I was able to fold this thing up and fit it in the back of my Honda Pilot. Now, I bet you, in fact, I'm probably going to jump to some clips here to see if I can fold this up and put it in the back of my wife's hatchback. Let's find out if that works. But yeah, so you can fold this thing up, the handlebars come down, and it does make it very easy to stow without necessarily always having to put it on a bike rack. Now I will say, it does weigh upwards of, I want to say 60 or 65 pounds with the battery in it right there, and that's fairly weighty. So, I mean, it's a little bulky and cumbersome, but it's definitely doable. There's a lot of heavy-duty welding on this and reinforcement. So they did a really nice job in making sure that this was a very durable frame. I feel like this thing is made from pretty quality materials, and it has a little key lock under here. The bike comes with keys, and you can put the key under there, and there's a little button underneath this bracket, so as you have to sort of partially fold the bike to get it out. But that keeps your battery from being easily removed by someone other than you. And the battery, as you may guess, is fairly expensive. So it does have this bracket here on the bottom also, so that when you fold it up and you set it down, the weight of the bike is on this bracket and not here on the fragile gears. Assembly was very easy. All I really had to do was attach the front wheel and then put the handlebars on and put the seat on, and I was ready to go. I have to say, it was absolutely a lot of fun. So if you think you're in the market for an e-bike, I'd highly recommend stopping by EUYBike.com and checking these guys out. I really had a lot of fun on this, and I may have to get a second one for my wife so that we can go riding together, because this was surprisingly liberating, getting out there and being able to just go and not being, you know, really taxed by the uphills, because the motor just takes all of that away. So it's just super easy. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, check it out. That's all I got for you. Hopefully you found some of this helpful. If you did, please consider giving me a thumbs up. I'd super appreciate that. Consider subscribing and all that nonsense. And hope to see you in the next one. Until then, have fun out there.